In our culture, everything is based on success. But what is success? Who defined it? Who decided that success was the goal instead of fulfillment? What happens if we shake up that definition? What if we make our own definition of success? My name is Tony Grebmeyer, and on this podcast, I'm going to dig deep into the real stories behind success. Join me as I interview other entrepreneurs who've climbed up Success Mountain and have come back down to share their stories so you can succeed. If you're ready to join a community of other entrepreneurs redefining success and finding fulfillment, go to BeFulfilledLife.com and join the community. Now, let's dive into today's show.
Welcome to Be Fulfilled. It is the real stories behind success. I'm your host, Tony Grebmeyer. Glad to be here with you. Excited for the guest today, and pen and paper in hand, something to write with. A lot of great stuff coming your way. Today's guest is passionate about the way that the ideas, storytelling, and beauty can change people's lives. She's a curator of Civic Renaissance. It's a newsletter and an intellectual community dedicated to lifelong learning, goodness, truth, and healing our public discourse through reviving the wisdom of the past. Please welcome to the show today's special guest, Alexandra Hudson.
Thanks for having me, Tony.
I'm excited for the opportunity just to chat, and been following you for a while and loving kind of what you're up to. And we're going to get into it today. But before we do, as we get ready to go up and down Success Mountain, I would love for you to answer this one question. What is your definition of success?
Definition of success is self-determination. It's cultivating a dream and a vision and having the efficacy and the freedom to achieve it and live the life that you want to achieve. And that's very much related to the line of work I'm in as kind of a online educator and a writer, that I want to equip people with the ideas and the history that allows them to unlock their human potential and be truly free.
I love it. It's great definition. And that's one thing that, you ask a lot of people and they're like, oh, I just want freedom or I want fulfillment. And I like yours. It was so different. So thank you. Let's jump back just to kind of some of the beginning days of when you had this desire to start writing. Can you take me back to when you really first noticed that this was something that you had a passion for?
I've always loved ideas, and I have had the greatest gift of parents that nourished and nurtured my curiosity and my love of learning. And it made me want to dedicate my life to giving other people that opportunity. Not only did I have incredible parents that nurtured that in me, but I had great teachers throughout my time, throughout my education. And so as a writer, I kind of feel like I'm able to do that. I'm able to learn publicly, learn out loud, and then share that with my audience, share that with people, and kind of learn alongside people. I'm constantly in dialogue with my readers, and I love that. And part of my story is the fact that I ended up working at the U.S. Department of Education, the single largest institution dedicated to learning in the history of humanity, and was devastated to learn that they did not care about education. They didn't care about curiosity and nurturing lifelong learning. And it was just a stifling bureaucracy that killed curiosity. And that was horrifying. And that'll be a theme and idea that I explore in my next book, just how Education Inc., so much of our world today is routinized and structured and kills kind of the human element in us. And so I'm trying to reclaim and celebrate all things human, what makes us human, what makes us different from the rest of creation, and celebrate that and reclaim that.
I love it. I mean, your energy is just infectious. It's exciting. And you look at all the things that you've done. I mean, the accolades just on paper for some of the things from Forbes, Vancouver's top 20 under 20, Time Magazine, USA Today, the Wall Street Journal. I mean, we could list all of your accolades, but some of the things that are so exciting and all of it, as I cut it all up and paste it, is just well-versed in travel. Like, you've definitely seen our world. And before the show, we were just chatting a little bit. I said, what is it that you're really excited about? And you have a new book, but we were talking about a course that you put out that you wanted to help people just kind of have a little bit more understanding of some Greek mythology. It's a 5-day, it's like a mini course. And I want to know where the give back in you comes from, because not everybody wakes up and says, I'm going to go give back. I want to go do all of this. A lot of people just put their head down. They say, I need to go get a paycheck, 9 to 5, go make a living. You're married, and you have a son, and a lot of people are happy going home and just doing that. But there's something in you. Maybe it's your parents, maybe it's the upbringing, maybe it's all the people who poured into you, but you have this desire to give back. And that's something that I want to talk a little bit about today, because that's something that the world needs more of right now. They need more people to be givers and not takers. So let's talk a little bit about that.
It's so true. I mean, I lived a year of my life where I was told I didn't matter, and the life of the mind didn't matter, and everything that I love, the true, the good, and the beautiful, and ideas didn't matter. This is my year at the U.S. Department of Education, and again, told that my humanity, my value was questioned, and I feel like there are so many, and that was miserable. That was an absolutely miserable experience. I left that experience, and I had what in Sanskrit it's called a kriya. It's like where the soul just breaks, and like where you just push yourself to a limit. And I literally just got sick. My whole body broke down. I got sick for 2 weeks. My body broke out in a rash. It was just this existential, physical, emotional crisis. And I started from square one again, like reflecting on what does it mean to be a human being, and what is the bare minimum of respect that we are owed and owe to others by virtue of our shared humanity and inherent human dignity, and what is the best way to live? What is the good life? And what are the factors that contribute to human flourishing and a meaningful life and human relationships? And those kind of questions, those foundational questions, kind of shape all of my work and everything I love. And it was just such a miserable experience for me. And I don't want anyone else to ever, question their very existence and their humanity and their irreducible value as human beings. And I think it's too often in life that we settle. We think that the way the world is the only way it has to be. And I am not content with that. No part of me is content with that. And I'm trying to define and cultivate a vision of a better way, a vision where we're able to fulfill our potential and reclaim again this dignity and high view of humanity. And the more that we self-cultivate, the more that we're better able to give to others. And so I just think there's way too much wasted human potential. And I want to encourage people that they don't have to, win the lottery or uproot their life and their family to do that, that there are ways to make our lives better in our everyday. And I want to show people how.
And so there, from what my notes say, you created, and you're the curator of the Civic Renaissance. Tell me a little bit about, it's a newsletter, an intellectual community dedicated to lifelong learning, goodness, truth, and the healing or public discourse. So tell me a little bit about that.
So that is where you would sign up, hopefully, if you want to learn out loud with me, if you want to kind of be along this journey. It's a place where I share beautiful things I read and I find, or as I'm reading, I'm learning. I share insights from whether it's great books or contemporary discourse. And my aim is for it to be a little bit of an oasis. There's so much in our world that is frenetic and immediate and toxic, but I want it to be just kind of orthogonal to that they're like a place of leisure and rest and just kind of thinking about important ideas. And again, these foundational questions of what is the best way to live? What is the good life? And how do we do that? And that's hard. There's obviously it's an uphill battle there because there's so much distraction. We all have smartphones. We're all busy. We all have incredible demands on our time, but this reclaiming this sense of leisure and this time and space to reflect on important questions. I think that everything depends on doing that. Our personal happiness, the future of our civilization, our society depends on doing that. And so I'm committed to doggedly trying to climb this uphill battle.
And where do people sign up for that?
Civic-renaissance.com.
I love it. And you talked about smartphone. I got to tell you, the other day I had this crazy idea. I said, my life was so simple when I didn't have all these things alerting me. I remember when I had a flip phone, and I went looking at AT&T the other day for a flip phone. I was like, maybe I'll just do it. Maybe I'll take the plunge, going back to when I wasn't easily distracted by things that didn't really matter. And I do a really good job of filtering and unfiltering a lot of stuff in my life. Yeah. So, I wake up early, do my routine, get to the office, work, go home, work again, because I work on a ranch, and then make sure family, and then I go to bed. But I have a routine. But I'm like, how much time is consumed on a phone?
Right.
Even just being distracted so let's just take your husband for a second. You guys are in a conversation and the phone rings. What do? You stop arguing or stop having a conversation and you go pick up your phone. What happens if that wasn't there and you could just have your conversation?
Hot tip, my phone is always on do not disturb mode. So I love it. I check my phone too often still. Like, I'm not perfect at all, but I check my phone when I want to. Often, downside of that is it could be like a tick, I don't want to do what I'm doing right now. So I'll just check my phone. But the point is I'm not interrupted. Just when I get a text or an email or when someone's calling, I have a little bit of agency in that.
I like that. That's really good. My trainer, got me to grab this light off of Amazon, not a plug, just, it was a Philip light, and it's no more of smartphone waking you up. It's actually, it glows like natural sunlight, and it wakes you up in the morning. So now, just in the 2 weeks of having me, try that, my phone is now further and further away from my bed. So I'm almost out of the room, it's just a pattern and a habit. I didn't realize it, but when someone brings it up, like you only have a blind spot once, then it's a choice.
Right.
So I made that choice. So I love our conversation. I'm going to take a quick break. I want to come back. I want to talk about your course, because I think that anybody listening today wants to learn a little bit more about maybe where they came from, life, things that are happening in our world. I mean, I think maybe you should just check out what she's doing. It's free. You can put in your email. You can learn more. We'll have some fun. We'll come back. Today's special guest, just a dynamic lady. So stick around, the Be Fulfilled Show. We'll be right back with our special guest today, Alexandra Hudson.
We're going to take a quick break, and since Tony's taking one, let's take one together. Let's take a deep breath. Wherever you are, feel those ribs expand, that chest lift towards your chin. Let's do it now. That feels good, right? That's one of over 23,000 breaths you're going to take today. You don't even think about it. You focused on that one. That's life. That's rejuvenation. That's the moment right here. And thanks for doing that with me. We all matter. Those breaths matter. Let's remember them. And let's get back to the show.
Hey, we are back on the Be Fulfilled podcast show. Tony Grubmeyer, up and down Success Mountain today. Wow. I hope you guys have been taking notes. I know that sometimes you question if I'm taking notes. I'm literally got pieces of paper filled with it. It's how I built the Be Fulfilled journal, because I had so many darn notes from so many amazing people. I wanted to put it into use. So what we've done is we were talking a little bit about a mini course our guest wrote today. Alexandra Hudson wrote about Greek mythology. And we were chatting at the break, and, she said Greek mythology in 10 minutes. I'm like, hey, I got 10 minutes and I would definitely love to learn more. So it's a crash course in the stories that have shaped the world. So what we're going to do is you're going to go to civic-renaissance.com, and you are going to see a beautiful picture of Alexandra standing in front of, I thought it was the Acropolis, but give me what building that is.
It is the Acropolis. It's the Acropolis in Nashville, Tennessee, though. The other Parthenon, it's called. It's so funny. 100 years ago, people got together and were like, we've got some time and money. Let's build an Acropolis. And so it's very funny and beautiful. Only 4 hours from my house when I just here in Indianapolis. And when I discovered it, I've already been there 3 or 4 times now, because it's just a beautiful structure. And of course, I can't be in Greece these days, so it'll more than do, because it's magnificent.
So what are people going to learn a little bit about just taking this course and going through a little walk and talk with you?
My aim is to offer tools and content that nourish people's minds and instill and cultivate curiosity and just wonder about the world. I think that we live in a time of such moral certainty where people just feel like, we're set in our ways. We think we have it all figured out. We like to feel like we have it all figured out. But human progress depends on being innovative and being curious and continuing to learn and to be creative. And we need that as human beings. There's research that shows our minds atrophy if we are not stimulating them and nurturing them and growing them. And so that's the aim with all of my content, just to give people things to kind of mull on and just ask them questions and give them content just to kind of give them a broader understanding of who we are, what it means to be human, and where we've come from. And so if you are interested in growing your life of the mind and just cultivating your curiosity, then you might enjoy this course that gives you, that I hope just whets your appetite to keep learning, keep diving into mythology, but don't stop with Greek mythology. Maybe we'll go to Sumerian or, Arabian mythology next. So there's just all things the human experience. That's what I'm interested and curious about. And I want to give people the tools to keep growing and to keep learning.
Mom and dad, what do they say about you now as they see all of the success that you've had?
I think sometimes they don't know what to do with me. that I'm just constantly doing more and more. And I owe it all to them, because they were the ones that modeled this curiosity for me. And they both modeled it and gave us every opportunity to cultivate our talents and to try new things and to find out what we were good at and what we liked. And they definitely had this sort of smattering approach. My mom had me in every single enrichment activity you can imagine, from French horn to calligraphy to Greek and Latin. And like she had this vision of like the well-rounded citizen, the well-rounded soul, well-rounded human being, which is an educational model that we've kind of lost today as we're so interested in matching humans to needs in the labor market. We've missed the fact that we're so much more than that. We're so much more than just bodies and seats and, filling out timesheets. That I'm interested in asking questions that get us to, that lead us to how to cultivate the fullness of our humanity and again, unlock this human potential that is so missed today.
Love it. Mom, Dad, nice job. You've got just an incredible daughter. I'm excited just for our conversation, and I'm going to get people to go check out what you're up to. The book you're working on, it's coming out in 2022.
Correct. Coming out in early 2022. Yeah.
So one thing that I love to do on the show, it's different than most, is I put people in what I call the fulfillment round. And it's a bunch of random questions that I have thought from just listening on the show today that maybe the world would like to know about you, or a little bit more detail. There's no rights, there's no wrongs, there's nothing you can say that's going to offend me or anyone, because basically you're going to speak truth. And I think that's something that you would love to do today. But before I start, I just need one little teeny little thing. I need permission. So all I need you to do is say, I am ready.
I'm ready.
And now it's time for the fulfillment round. No phoning friend, no using the Google machine, no digging into storage for the Encyclopedia Britannicas. And I promise Tony won't make you cry. And if you don't know the answer, just make it up. The fulfillment round brought to you by shipoffers.com for all your product and fulfillment needs. Now, Tony, you ready to ask some questions?
All right. From all of the places you've traveled in the world, if there was no pandemic going on right now and you could, where would you be?
Oh, great question. Maybe, I don't know, one of my favorite experiences was in Tbilisi, Georgia. Not Georgia, the state, but the country that borders Armenia. And actually, Joseph Stalin is from Georgia. And I went to this church that was built in the old capital of Georgia, built in the third century. So it was very old structure. And I walked into this church, this Eastern Orthodox church, and I don't remember ever having an experience in my life where the veil between this world and the next was so thin. You just kind of felt the transcendent all around you. And it's so interesting. We all like dream of picking up from our busy, hairy lives and moving to a monastery in India and like fulfilling our eat, pray, love, like, fantasy dream. But the pandemic has really offered us all the opportunity to do that, because we are not in the lockdown. We don't have the same demands in our time to travel and like be physically present. I think that we were talking about the distraction of technology and cell phones. Like we are our own worst enemy and not being able to say no to those distractions. But the point is, we have that opportunity to kind of create that solitude, create that leisure, to create that stillness in our daily rituals and in our lives. And I love thinking about that Eastern Orthodox church in Tbilisi that I'd love to return to one day, just because of that transcendence, that stillness that it's so easy to lose in our moment that prizes the frenetic and the immediate, and in our moment that prizes the material. And we miss the part of our soul that is spiritual, that is transcendent. We are mind, body, spirit. We're not just bodies. So
I love that. I literally had a call with a company today, Cone, out of Denver, doing some work about some rebranding stuff we're doing for our business. And I was noticing in this gentleman's office, he had these beautiful pictures on his wall. And I said, gosh, you just have really great taste. He goes, oh, all of that goes to my wife. She dabbles in watercolor. And I said, oh, really? And we were talking a little bit more. And I go, watercolor? He goes, no, actually, those are wine watercolor paintings. She's figured out like how to take red wine and get the certain mixture and be able to use it to paint. And I noticed a little bit about you that you dabble a little bit in watercolor.
I love that sort of innovation. It's like taking a traditional medium and doing it in a different and novel way. I love that. That's wonderful.
When's the last time you spent time
painting?
Yeah.
It's probably been a few months. I actually remember I got COVID in January. And before I knew I got COVID, I was just like soulishly tired. And I was like, maybe what I need is to paint. And I like got out my watercolors. And the next day I painted for probably all like 25 minutes because I just could barely stand. I was so tired. And then I got my test results the next day. I was like, okay, well, that makes sense. So it has been since January. I probably should. But it's just, I love exercising creative faculties that are not, the stuff that I do day in and day out, which are like kind of the reading and the writing. And it's, we're all creative and we all become fully human when we partake in the creative process. So I'm grateful for opportunities to do that.
I love it. Thanks for sharing that story. And I'm glad that you were on the mend and definitely sound like you were back smiling, laughing, and doing what you love. Question, where did you meet your husband?
We met in Washington, D.C. at the Mayflower Hotel, beautiful historic hotel for anyone who's familiar with D.C. And we were both volunteering for a lawyers' convention that we were both students and attending. I had just interned with them the summer before, so I was back and he was down volunteering from law school. And I thought I recognized him. I thought we had met the night before. And so I went up to him, we started talking, but he insisted that we hadn't met, but we started talking and he was pretty taken with me right away. And I just wasn't very impressed with him. I thought he was just kind of a stuck up, kind of pretentious trust fund baby. And I couldn't have been more wrong about him. Like I think I'm a very good judge of character, but I just totally misjudged him. I totally jumped to conclusions and assumptions about him. And we ended up just meeting that weekend, but we stayed in touch virtually for a few months. And then he ended up booking a flight to come visit me in Vancouver, Canada, where I lived in that time. We started dating then. But one thing that changed my mind about him, even though I wasn't very interested in him at first or anyone really, I was just very focused on school and my graduate studies, graduate program, was how curious he was that we could just talk and he would keep up with me about everything. If I mentioned a book offhandedly, he would go read the whole book and then come back and want to talk about it with me. And I'm so grateful for that. It's one thing that kind of put my mind at ease about this thing called marriage, which, it's a scary thought. It's a scary thought to think about how we might change and grow and develop as human beings. And one thing I loved about him was just his integrity, his like inner moral core. He's just the best person I know, just incredibly strong moral strength. And also just his curiosity. There's no end of things in the world to discover together. Like, how could we ever get bored of each other if we're always kind of outward looking and discovering more about the world around us? And that's definitely been the case in our 6 years of marriage. So very grateful for him.
I love it. What was the book that he went and read right away? Do you remember?
It was John Steinbeck's East of Eden.
Cool. We like putting things in our show notes. So. And
I actually hadn't even read that book. I had mentioned a character, a quote from it. So he went out and read this whole Steinbeck book and came back to want to talk about it with me. And he's like, wait, you haven't read it?
You're like, well, wait, it was just a suggestion and you beat me to it. So
it was just an illusion.
I love it. So 6 years of marriage, one son, one just amazing meeting in Washington led to him visiting in Vancouver, and one thing led to another. You guys have gone on a journey. What would be one thing that you would love to share with your husband that maybe is something of saying thank you? We do this from time to time on the show to end it, just kind of like you saying to him something that you're super grateful for.
I'm incredibly grateful for his, first of all, in a practical way, he's my number one editor. Like anything I write before it goes out into the world, I try and make sure he sees it just because he always makes it better. He's always a value add. But on top of that, I'm incredibly grateful for his support. He's really believed in me, believed in my work. He saw firsthand how miserable and unhappy I was when working at a big, kind of governmental institution. And he believes enough in me and my ideas and the kind of things I want to do and offer the world and create for the world that he, starting out as a writer, you're kind of your own small business. Like I was my entity. Like I am my wares that I'm trying to sell. And so he very much, supported my efforts. And I'm very grateful. I'm incredibly grateful for him, for that encouragement and for that support and for believing in me and my project.
Love it. Sounds like an amazing husband. So today's special guest, Alexandra Hudson. You can learn more about her. You can visit TonyGrebmeyer.com, get all the show notes, but we'll direct you over to civic-renaissance.com. Get her newsletter, take her course, sign up for her book, and follow her. This is one dynamic lady you do not want to miss out on. And until next time, no matter where you go, no matter what you do, choose to make today the absolute best day of your life.
Thanks for listening to today's show. But before you go, let me ask you a question. How would you like to be the architect of your journey in this game we call life? Take the next step now at www.tonygrebmeyer.com. Enter your details to get the first week of the Be Fulfilled Journal for free. It includes access to our private community of thousands of other entrepreneurs. It'll give you more clarity and freedom in your day. And it might just change your life forever.